Welcome back, everyone, to another Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a super fascinating anecdotal look at a single, incredibly inexpensive supplement. Honestly, you've probably walked right past it in the pharmacy 100 times. We're talking about selenium. We're going to dive into an anthology of case studies from a really unique source and look at how this little trace mineral was used, not as some magic bullet, but as a catalyst for some pretty remarkable health recoveries.
Okay, right off the bat, let's look at this quote because it's absolutely crucial. The source material we're examining today presents a complementary philosophy. The author of these accounts, Osman, states this explicitly. What we're looking at today are personal anecdotes and holistic observations. They're meant to run parallel to, not replace, modern medical treatments. So, you know the deal. If you're facing health challenges, a licensed medical professional should always be your first stop.
So, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll meet the wellness teacher behind these stories. Second, the selenium catalyst. Third, Case 1, immune support. Fourth, Case 2, diabetic neuropathy. Fifth, Case 3, stroke recovery. And finally, we'll wrap up with the complementary philosophy.
Section 1. Meet the wellness teacher.
Let's meet the source of these anecdotes. This is Osman, also known as the blind Muslim yogi. Osman has a really deep background as a master-level bioenergy healer and a yoga and meditation teacher. And it's actually worth noting that he only lost his eyesight recently, back in May of 2023, which means he spent the vast majority of his life with full vision. That gives him a pretty unique perspective on the world. On his platform, yogaandwellness786.com, where he actually offers a free 5-minute yoga and meditation program, his main focus is blending modern scientific discoveries with ancient holistic arts, and it's through that specific lens that he experienced the following interactions with selenium.
Moving on to Section 2, the selenium catalyst.
Okay, 50. This number is absolutely key for these cases. Exactly 50 micrograms. Osman emphasizes this specific, relatively small amount. Now, if you go to a pharmacy, you're usually going to find bottles with 100 or 200 microunit tablets. But for the protocols we're about to explore, precision was everything. Exactly 50 micrograms a day.
And this brings up a wild paradox about selenium, which our source points out. It is literally one of the cheapest supplements you can buy. Yet, its potential effects are flying completely under the radar for the general public. Osman kind of theorizes that because it's so unknown, the price stays incredibly low. He even jokes that if people really knew what it could do, the cost would probably skyrocket overnight.
Let's look at Section 3. Case 1. Immune support.
So Osman recounts this really intense discussion he had with a pharmacist friend down in South Africa. While they were talking, an American visitor walks in, and he is on a mission to advocate for selenium. This guy had previously tested positive for HIV and had unfortunately suffered a severe relapse into AIDS. As an intervention, he started taking selenium supplements, and according to his own account, this mineral had a massive boosting effect on his immune system. He reported living completely AIDS-free for 19 years.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the visitor validated his story. He didn't just expect them to take his word for it. He actually whipped out a physical photograph of himself with former U.S. President Bill Clinton right there in the pharmacy. For Osman, seeing that tangible proof, combined with the guy's sheer passion, was a major turning point. It's what inspired him to start testing selenium in his own life.
Section 4. Case 2. Diabetic neuropathy.
To really wrap our heads around this next case, we need to understand exactly what Osman was dealing with. Neuropathy is a super common and honestly debilitating secondary condition of diabetes. It involves weakness, numbness, and this awful shooting pain caused by nerve damage. It usually hits the extremities, your hands and feet. It's progressive, and it can just totally wreck your quality of life. So, Osman had a history of diabetes, and despite doing everything completely by the book, taking his prescribed meds, keeping up with his lifestyle habits, he started getting mild diabetic neuropathy. Remembering that American visitor, he decided to introduce just one single new variable to his routine, exactly 50 micrograms of selenium every single day. He stuck with this for 6 months, and the result? He reports that his mild neuropathy was completely reversed. By isolating that one variable while keeping up his baseline medical care, his quality of life improved massively.
Section 5. Case 3. Stroke recovery. This brings us to a deeply personal and honestly pretty emotional case involving Osman's mother. After the tragic loss of Osman's brother, his mom, who was in her 60s at the time, was just overwhelmed by grief and stress. She ended up suffering a mild right-side stroke. Her right arm dropped, and because she was a teacher, this was absolutely devastating. It meant she couldn't write on the chalkboard, directly threatening her career. But after they introduced the selenium intervention, she started regaining movement within days. Fast forward to today, she's pushing 80 years old and has been completely stroke-free for well over a decade.
Now, we have to be crystal clear about the methodology here. When the stroke happened, they didn't skip the doctor. They sought immediate emergency medical care. They followed professional advice to stabilize her. That was the vital baseline. The selenium was brought in strictly as an addition to the doctor's protocol. It was that specific combo, essential modern medicine, plus the sustained 50 microgram holistic addition of selenium, that led to her feeling better so quickly and staying healthy for over 15 years.
Which brings us to Section 6, the complementary philosophy.
So what's the big picture here? From a guy recovering from severe immune failure to reversing diabetic nerve pain to a teacher getting her arm back after a stroke, the through line is totally clear. Natural remedies like selenium can run parallel to standard medical treatments and do so effectively. But precision matters. More is not always better, as we saw with that strict 50 microgram rule. Plus, it's wild to think that some of the most accessible options for our health are just hiding in plain sight, super cheap, at your local pharmacy. If you're curious to dig deeper into how modern science meets ancient arts, Osman has a bunch of resources over at his site, yogaandwellness786.com.
And really, that's the ultimate takeaway from all these case studies. It's never about rejecting science, it's about enhancing it. So I want to leave you with this to think about. How might simple, holistic supplements actually complement, rather than replace, your own modern medical routines? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.